I made some PowerPoints on beforehand. I tried to imagine something. So do you... This is a summary of day 1. Yeah. And this is what I have written down. How to correct misinformation about parental alienation the best way. And this is from Judith's presentation. It's the tech triad. We can repeat it now. Use credible and reliable sources so that the information you give can be trusted. Try to make it interesting or tells a story so that it makes the people you address engaged. As with the TED talk we just heard. Present the information focused, succinct, clear and time efficient. Make it compact. This is a question. Is there a need of more more specific educational programs? And the answer after this presentation is yes. Yes. And also including Nick Woodall's presentation that with a suggestion to have guidelines and certification for parental alienation practitioners. That's a suggestion for the future. And here's a suggestion from several of us who have been working for a long time. I've been working with parental alienation cases in Sweden for more than 25 years. And I would like to have a consensus report on parental alienation that could be signed by at least 100 professionals globally to make out points on definitions, diagnosing differentiation between estrangement and parental alienation, perhaps some instructions about how to work with it, how to prevent and how to treat it. I don't know, it has to be worked out and someone has to be, or several people have to be responsible for such a thing.
Is he a targeted parent? We have a question.
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford, I don't know. I found this picture on the internet.
I think it's the Stand Up for Gus.
Yes, okay, that's why. That's
Maybe Photoshop, but I think it's from the website. Patrick, what's his name?
Jason Patrick.
Stand Up for Gus. Anyway, look, what I'm trying to do is I'm going to write down the specific to-dos. And I'm going to write down who's going to do it. And Lena, do you have a couple more that you want to mention?
Yes, I just tried to make some summary points during the day, and one of the points made, a suggestion made early in the morning was to create a center or an institute, a training center for education and exchange of experiences. And perhaps combined with that, we need to create a non-profit foundation to raise money, where non-profit organizations can apply for
A lot of
support.
us, I think there's quite a few nonprofits in the room today.
Yeah. And another suggestion was to develop a risk approach to the problem of parental alienation. I don't know if that's concrete enough. And I already mentioned the created training plans and good standards, and have certification for parental alienation practitioners, presented by Nick. And then, to summarize what many of you have said, both in questions and in presentations, we can address parental alienation as the domestic violence of our time. And to repeat that so it becomes a truth. And there, it was also mentioning about Article 12, and I think that's also a summary of what many have said, that we have to educate on the question of listen to the child, that it's a matter of, as Nick put it, listen, but look at the actions, address the actions.
Okay.
Because you know yeah, okay.
One more.
One more. I just want to say that the parents' task is to give roots and wings. That's a short summary. And I want to welcome you to Stockholm in August 2018, and 1 week afterwards to London. We are cooperating, Nick and Karen Woodle and me, organizing the Stockholm conference. And so if after the Stockholm conference you can go on a cruise on the Baltic to have some social interaction. That's our suggestion from Stockholm. So you're very welcome.
Thanks, Lena. Okay, we have a couple of minutes. Let's see if we can boil down. Some of the things Lena said were rather general. Let's see if we can have 2 or 3 specific things and somebody who's going to do them. So the simplest thing, the most direct thing that Lena mentioned is the idea of a consensus statement. And I know that's simple because people have tried to do that before. Dr. Miller sitting right here. And it's not quite done, but that's an example of something that could be finished. But see, Lena's is slightly different. She wants it signed by 100 people.
Well, can I jump into?
I just want to know. I don't want any discussion. I just want to know: is somebody willing to do a consensus statement like Dr. Miller?
My 10 seconds are that it's such a generic statement that we should share it with Lena and see if 100 other people might sign it.
Okay, so you're agreeing to.
I think that's a splendid idea.
Okay, so that's one idea that we agree on. Great. Some of this, I don't know how to do it. The certification sounds like a neat thing, but is there anybody in this room who would actually take responsibility for accomplishing that?
Yeah.
Certification in parental alienation.
You mean a certification?
Karen?
Yeah, we're working in London and in Europe on building the European Association, where we're looking at curating international standards of practice with families affected by alienation. So I think, Nick, am I speaking for both of us? We'd be interested in looking at developing international standards of practice for people who work with these families, so that we are creating a certification to ensure that people who say that they're doing it are actually doing it the way that we know is necessary. I think we'll take responsibility.
Okay, so that would also do that. Now, it is interesting that a broad statement of standard of practice for what people should do is actually sort of a complement to a consensus statement about what is parental alienation. So those two things sort of go together. Okay, we have 3 or 4 more other things here. Is somebody willing to take responsibility for any of these other things that are on this list? Robert.
Domestic violence.
Well, the domestic violence was simply a statement of intent. Parental alienation should be considered the domestic violence of our time, which is.
Yeah, I think people have to speak about it. I think people have to be aware of that.
But do you have a way to accomplish that?
You have to address journalists, and I didn't. Did you see that I wrote beside Harrison Ford that I think we have to films must be made.
Okay.
Stand-up comedians.
Okay, so Robert is willing to, whatever the methods, Robert is kind of willing to take it on as a project.
Right, I will head the project, all right?
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so we have 3 things. That's fantastic. See what you can do in 3 minutes if you put your mind to it. Does anybody else have anything that you remember from this list that you would like to say that you would actually do?
Bill, one of the things was one of my ideas, which is the institute, or an institute or a training center, I think. You know, I'm working on that. The biggest issue for me with that is going to be funding, absolutely.
I would
But
suggest,
I would definitely pull in Bob and Mike's.
okay, I would suggest a simpler version of that, which is that somebody in this room would get the topic of parental alienation in the curriculum of some kind of training program, either social work or psychology or psychiatry. That
Or legal.
in other words, you're not taking on the whole world, you're just taking on one mental health discipline or legal discipline, where, and the goal is that it would be in the curriculum. Does somebody want to do that?
Bill, I think we can do that.
Okay, Jim?
One area of training. Cover everything?
No. A minimal discussion of parental alienation, where parental alienation is actually in the document. It's in the curriculum document of a training program. Is that what, okay. Say, look, I think this is wonderful. I think we're almost out of time. We have 4 wonderful to-dos.
Bill, could you?
And they will be looked upon and evaluated at the Stockholm conference. That's the time frame.
Could you announce the names of the people who are heading up those four endeavors so that people are interested?
Yeah, I'll summarize real quick. Oh, well, all this is going to be published, I hope, in the November issue of our newsletter.
We're here now.
But the people that, this is, I'm just going to summarize this real quick. This is Jim Chance over here, who's going to do the thing about getting it in the curriculum of a training program.
Stand up, Jane.
Robert Samery is next to him, who's going to do something about getting he's going to get the New York Times Sunday magazine.
I'm going to get everybody to talk about domestic violence in the context of PA. Everybody in here will refer to PA
Right.
as domestic violence whenever you
And
write that.
if you add that it's a violation of the child's human right to family life, I'd be very thankful,
Okay.
because I think it's fundamental.
Okay, and so that's going to be through media. Karen and Nick Woodall are going to work on a certification program having to do with how should parental alienation providers act? What should they do? And Steve Miller is going to finish up and sort of broaden the consensus statement as to what is parental alienation. That's wonderful. I really thank Lena today for all her support. And we thank Tom Jensen for all of his technology.